Okay, so here is the first installment. Um, Libby and Holly are both familiar with oracle cards, and I have a deck of them, and they're basically what I like to call spirits for dummies. And with that I mean that there are 44 cards that say various things on them: forgiveness, take action, yes, no, in 5 months, in 2 weeks, different responses to questions you might want to ask. And it's not that the cards are telling you these things, it's that your spirit guides or angels or God or whatever you want to call it directs you to the card that will be most helpful to you for the question that you're asking. So I was asking questions about my horse, and I kept getting this forgiveness card, and I'm like, okay, I'll forgive my horse, and I forgive him for that. Like, what's the deal? And I kept getting this forgiveness card over and over again. There are 44 cards in the deck, so I was just like, this is so weird. Obviously, something needs to happen forgiveness-wise. I don't know what it is. So I'm just starting to rattle off things that I forgave people for. My dad, my mom, my brothers, people in the past. And I just started just saying all those things I forgave them for and letting it go and releasing them of negative energy. And I asked the deck, I said, okay, is that enough? Like, am I done? And I picked the card and it's like, no, you're not. Like, keep going. And I'm like, okay, but who? I thought I sort of covered the big ones, I mean, how granular do we need to get? And in my head, and this is often how spirits communicate telepathically, Matt, like, came to me. And I was like, oh, Matt, my ex Matt. And you guys may or may not have known, but, I was dating him when my brother passed, and he was not great, to put it lightly. I had just moved to New York, and we were living together, and he, was going out with his friends all the time, and I just graduated school, started a new job, I didn't know anybody, and I was asking him as my brother was, struggling to live, and saying, I really need you to spend some time with me. Like, I just, I feel upset, I feel alone, have all these emotions, and I just need somebody with me, during this time. And he would say, oh, you just want to keep me from going out with my friends, and you just don't want me to go have fun. I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. Anyway, fast forward, my brother passes away the night before we're supposed to go to the funeral, and Matt says, can I go with my friends? Everyone's going out. I'm like, are you serious? Like, tomorrow's the funeral, you're gonna go out? I'm like, okay. I was just so defeated at this point and just so emotionally spent. I was like, okay, just go and just be back at a reasonable hour, so that way, we can wake up really early and drive. Well, he doesn't come back until the bars close, and he's drunk as a skunk. I don't even know how he got home. And I, of course, was up the whole time waiting for him to come back. So here I am up till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, upset, that he's not back yet, upset that my brother's passed away, I'm going to the funeral tomorrow, just upset. And he comes in, says nothing, passes out. In the morning, I get up, I get a shower, and I'm telling him, hey, like, we got to go in an hour. It's like 3.5 hour drive. He's like, no movement, like, hungover, probably still half drunk. And I'm bawling at this point, like, after it's getting really close to time we have to leave, and he just hasn't gotten out of bed. Bawling, and I'm saying, if you don't come with me, we are over. Like, this is it. Like, this is, like, beyond what I could ever accept. And at this point, I feel like I had accepted a lot from him in terms of his behavior, because I was at a point in my life where I was very, weak, emotionally weak from, moving, graduating school, my brother dying, not having friends up there, starting a new job. So he was like all I had. And if I lost him, then that would be it. And I would just be all alone. So I also didn't want to go and have to explain to everyone why my boyfriend of 3 years was not at my brother's funeral, who I live with. So, eventually he gets out of bed and he sleeps the entire way there. It was fine. I mean, whatever, like, after that point, at least he sobered up and came to the center, the memorials and stuff. So anyway, obviously that was a very difficult thing for me to go through, and it was very upsetting, and I feel like he wasn't there for me when he should have been. And I don't think I ever forgave him, because I felt that was almost unforgivable. That was just like one of the worst things that anyone could do. And, on top of that, when we got back, I realized he had been cheating on me, and I basically was forced to leave him because at this point, so many bad things had happened. I just had to leave. And, it was a really hard time for me in my life. It spiraled into several months, probably over a year, where I just felt, really adrift and really like alone and upset. And, he could have been a rock for me, and he wasn't. And he chose not to be for whatever reasons he had in his journey. But so obviously there were some things I had to forgive him for, but I didn't even really think like that still mattered, but everything in our life sort of accumulates in our psyche, and this had accumulated in my psyche. And they said, you have to let go of it. And I said, okay. So I went just that night and just said it out loud that I had forgiven him, and I released him everything. And then I asked the cards if that was, did I do it? Was I, good enough? And they basically said no. They got this assertiveness card, and it basically says that you have to speak your truth. It's important for you to speak your truth. You've been wronged, and you need to speak your truth. I was like, okay, I guess I have to tell him. So I actually sent him a text, a very heavy text, basically telling him everything I just told you, how, all these things happened, and, how it impacted me, and, how I forgave him for that, and how I, am letting go of any negativity between us, because, I understand that at that point in his life, he was on whatever part of his journey he was, and he wasn't able to be that for me. And, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to be compassionate for other people who are in relationships that they have trouble leaving, because I think before that point I had always just been like, oh, just leave that dirtbag, leave that jerk. And until I was in a situation where it was, I was in a vulnerable state, and it was really hard for me to leave somebody. And I consider myself an extremely strong person, an extremely strong-willed person, and I had trouble doing it. To the point where I let this person, overstep boundaries that I would have normally upheld. So it did teach me a lot. It was painful. And I had to let that go. So also one other thing with that is that night, before I even wrote back to him, before I even wrote this text message, I had just given the forgiveness verbally to the ether. And I had this dream, and the dream was me in a relationship with somebody, and me and this person lived together. And Matt was just sitting on the couch at this house where I lived with this other person. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Like, you're just like this weird lurker. Like, why? I don't understand. And what that dream was telling me was that, even though I had been done with Matt for a decade, that lingered in my psyche, and that I was bringing that forward into all of my experiences and all my relationships, because I hadn't let that go, and I hadn't given that forgiveness, and I hadn't, made peace with that internally. And, I hope that I've done that now, and maybe, me doing that for me to release that, and I, forgiving what I thought was unforgivable. And now I know that nothing is unforgivable. Everything can be forgiven, and everything is just a learning experience. And, if somebody does something, it's just telling you something, whether, like for me, it was to set a boundary and to just say, I'm worth more than this treatment, or for me to understand how hard it is for people in relationships that, are borderline abusive. I mean, I guess it's not physically abusive, but it's like emotionally abusive, and emotionally not supportive, or lacking in a severe way. So it taught me a lot of things, and it taught me a lot of what I didn't want in a relationship, which is just as valuable as knowing what you do want. And, I thank him for that. I thank him for teaching me those lessons, even though it was very painful. So I guess sort of the moral of the story is that, you need to forgive, and you need to make peace with the situation. If someone has wronged you, or someone has, create a situation that created a lot of strife for you, you can let it go various ways. I'm not sure, the way that you do it may be different than mine. Maybe for you, it's just, sort of verbally saying stuff out loud, or, doing things, taking actions that might help you be at peace with whatever situation it had caused. Maybe it's actually saying to that person that you forgive them. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something, and whatever it is, that will sort of help cleanse you, and help you move forward in whatever relationships in your life without carrying that baggage around. I mean, imagine how much we're all carrying around from the many things that have happened to us, right? So if you just put that down, how much better your life is going to be. And even in ways you don't even realize this, because it's just stuck in your subconscious and you don't even think that that thing is still with you. Well, the universe told me it was, and I believe them because they've, because of all my experiences. I know that, obviously that's a good thing to do anyway. You just know that it's good to forgive people. So anyway, that was just something that had happened recently, and Matt has not responded. I don't know if he ever will. And that's fine if he doesn't. I actually said in the text, you do not need to respond to this message, and I wish you the best for your family and everything. So if he ever does respond, I'll definitely let you guys know. It'd probably be quite interesting. I'm sure that was a very odd and out of the blue text for him to get. Anyway, love you guys. I'll talk to you later.